This is probably my favorite deck in the format. I think if I played in a Legacy tournament tomorrow, I would play Bug Delver.
I'm a Rug Delver fan myself, but I think Bug Delver is also a totally reasonable option.
If I wasn't playing Goblins, I would.
If I wasn't playing Burn, which I just would.
Yeah. I would play something else. Looks like Kyle is sending it back here. Jansen taking a look at his opening hand. See if he likes what he sees.
Now, this is a sneak and show, but Adam with a lot of unconventional choices in his deck. 4 main deck copies of Spell Pierce. You usually see some copies, but 4 is definitely a rarity. And 2 copies of Simian Spirit Guide to supplement his 4 Lotus Petals.
I love the inclusion of Spirit Guide in this deck. It ups the chances of being able to go off on turn 1. And it's great against Daze and Spell Pierce.
Yep.
Love it, love it, love it.
I think people are often loath to play with something that is worse than a card that is already in their deck, like Simian Spirit Guide versus Lotus Petal. But too often when you're playing 4 copies of a particular card, usually it's worth at least considering playing some copies of the inferior but still acceptable option.
See if Abell can find a hand that he's happy with.
Svi Machowicz made a comment a little while ago. I mean, this was years ago in an article on Star City, and I can't remember exactly the quote, so I'm going to be butchering it a little bit, but it was some deck list that had 4 copies of a particular card and 0 copies of an inferior but still very similar substitute. And he said, it's really convenient if the answer happens to be, I only want 4 copies of this effect. Basically putting the idea in people's heads that you should be considering inferior but similar options more frequently than people do. You always see 4 Lotus Petals and 0 copies of Simian Spirit Guide, and I doubt that that is correct 100% of the time, given how similar the 2 cards are a large percentage of the time.
I mean, I'm willing to agree. And I think that, again, the other thing that just plays a big role in things is that people will not play around Simian Spirit Guide, and I think that actually matters and gives you an edge, probably.
Yep.
I think that is a very big deal.
Definitely. There is a surprise factor there. People think they're probably safer with their Dazes and Spell Pierces than they actually are. And again, a huge percentage of the time, it is the same card.
Kyle going to drop another opening hand here. And both these players 6-1 and 1. Whoever does win is playing our elimination rounds later this evening. We are underway with an Underground Sea into a Deathrite Shaman. Jansen will draw a card. This is a Volcanic Island. And that is a Ponder, opening himself up the Wasteland a little bit here, something the Sneak and Show deck is typically very good at not doing.
Kyle had Daze in hand and did not hesitate to let this resolve. A big question here is Kyle aware of what he's playing against?
This is true.
This could also be a Rug Delver opening, for example.
Yeah.
So if you want to buy cards or sell cards for trading credit, come on by. There's 40 minutes to finish the show, and thank you for making the show awesome, and may your good support it all until you win.
Ponder's going to resolve here. Jansen's going to keep, draws his card, and he's going to kick it on back over to Kyle.
Players, if at the conclusion of this round, you
Draw here was a Ponder. You also see the Daze.
And bring it to the deck checks area to your right.
This is the upside of playing something like Bug Delver is you can mulligan to 5 and still compete. There's a lot of decks in Legacy where that isn't really the case, but it can play a better resource light than about any deck in the format.
Here's a Ponder. That's good to go. So 3 cards coming for Kyle. A Wasteland among them. That Wasteland has to look pretty good staring at a Volcanic Island.
Wasteland, Force of Will, Ponder. If Kyle is aware of the matchup he's playing, this may be about as good of a Ponder as he can ask for.
Yeah. This also gives him lands in the graveyards for Deathrite Shaman.
Yeah, a lot to like here.
Yeah, it's hard to pass that up, and he's not going to. Wasteland takes care of the Volcanic. He'll activate that, get the Volcanic out of there. Here's another copy of Deathrite Shaman. And now his deck is certainly online here for a mulligan to 5. Jansen. Oh, I hope he has a land to play. This could get ugly. He did keep with the Ponder after all.
And Wasteland definitely should have been on his radar given the opening that Kyle had.
Mm-hmm.
Well, he's thumbing a City of Traders, but I don't think he wants to deploy that on the table if he can avoid it.
He's a little unsure of himself here. Is he discarding? Wow.
Yep.
Well, that is unexpected, especially after he kept with the ponder.
Yep. This does bode very well for Kyle's days as well.
Well, one death right gets to get in, the other will start removing some stuff. I don't think that Kyle wants to sacrifice that fetch land just yet. I think he likes the third card that he has.
Yeah, he has a ponder. He gets another shot at it. So
Yeah.
he wants to draw a ponder and wants to save a fetch land for his ponder. So no reason to move.
Jansen going to draw a card. Again, he knows what this card is too.
If you discarded before, you had to imagine he's going to discard again.
Yeah, that's my thought process too. It's a very interesting keep. One that could really backfire badly for him. Given that one wasteland may have just destroyed his entire hand. You see him kind of going through the grip again here. I think he's going to keep the City of Traders. The card he's sitting down here looks like the card he's going to discard, much like last turn. Again, we don't have a great look at his hand, neither do you guys at home, unfortunately, but you do wonder what the heck is going on over there.
Well, there's clearly a City of Traders he does not want to deploy on this field if he can avoid it.
Yeah. He has no interest in playing that. I mean, I'll say he didn't have interest in playing it last turn. It looks like he has interest in playing it this turn, which means that the card that he drew is one he does not want to discard. Going to remove the ponder. Now, if Kyle's able to find another wasteland here.
Adam is in a enormous amount of trouble.
Again, we know the card he's going to draw is a ponder, along with the wasteland of the days in his hand. Yeah, you got to cast this ponder because, boy, if one of these top three cards is wasteland, this is a delight. 3. Doesn't look like it is. Doesn't look like those cards are great either. There's an abrupt decay there in the front.
I believe a hint of Torak as well.
And I wouldn't want anything to do with him to Torak right now.
Yeah.
You're not in love with taking just a random draw, but I don't think I would be in love with him at this situation. My opponent has 7 cards. I'm not really grinding their resources away all that great, but he's going to take it. Maybe he can get lucky and hit the cards he's looking for.
It's just tough against Sting and Show because it's not, the deck's not really critical mass oriented.
Hey, misdirection tying her out?
There is one copy.
Oh, boy.
That's another risk here. I don't know if that's necessarily something on Kyle's radar, but.
2. Well, it's going to be a him. Wonder if Jansen has misdirection here. Be a pretty large beating if he did.
I think he does. I think he's moved it over to his left.
Yeah, you can see it now. Now he's just trying to figure out what blue card to remove. And
this is something of a victory here for Adam. Even if this doesn't necessarily resolve, he's getting to cashing cards in hand for good value in a spot where he's probably going to discard a hand size next turn anyway.
Now, if you're Kyle, you force this.
Yeah. But this is not the battle that Kyle really wanted to have.
Wow, he doesn't. Wow.
Oh, that's. I mean, isn't it just free to force a will
yeah,
there?
that doesn't make any sense.
Now he's empty-handed.
Yeah,
so
he was going to be empty-handed anyway.
Right.
So.
It's literally just free to force a will there. So
because then you get, if your force of will resolves, you get 2 more cards out of your opponent's hand. So that's a huge misstep.
Yeah.
He wasn't going to end the turn with force of will and days in his hand anyway.
Right.
Here's a Dark Confidant off the top of the deck. But the opportunity to get 2 more cards out of your opponent's hand is something you should not be passing up at this point in the game.
And I'm with another force of will in hand, and you can elect to force of will this Confidant in this spot. And again, getting to cash in cards like this, these 2-for-1s don't really sting very much because Adam's got plenty of cards in his hand. Some of them are probably quite extraneous.
Yeah, there's a force removing a ponder. I think that Jansen is just looking for a blue source now. It feels like he has show and tell plus something.
I suspect that he has the kill if he draws another land here that makes colored mana.
See what he draws. Just reaching for the City of Traders. Now he's just passing. All right. Kyle will draw. Didn't get a great look at what he found. He's just going to pass the turn back, so this is Deathrite Shaman activations. Jansen, I have to imagine, is looking just for blue mana.
Perhaps a pedal.
Looks like he's deploying, yep. So here's 2. Let's make it 3. And it's got to be show and tell.
Yeah.
Nothing else would make sense. As far as what he kept for the hand with his ponder, the willingness to discard the Gristlebrand, and then play the City of Traders, nothing else would make sense. Now the question is, assuming he has an option of what to put into play.
I believe it will be Gristlebrand if he has the choice between that and Emrakul.
Yeah. As is often correct.
Don't want to risk Liliana the Veil.
Yeah. It looks like he has an option of both.
Yeah.
He's thinking a lot about this. There's a card he's chosen. Okay, there it is.
I like this if he has the choice between the two. It's
Yeah.
a much safer play.
Plus, he gets to draw cards now to try to find a land. He's going to remove show and tell, remove the misdirection, Will Abell. Jansen going to go down to 9. I suppose actually activating the Gristlebrand there would have been quite poor, so do take that back because he'd be a 2 right now and then die to the Deathrite. So
Yeah.
Don't do that. That would not be good.
Just hang tight for a turn.
Get a hit in. There's a Pluto Delta. Pass the turn back, will Kyle over to Adam. I was going to attack that. Lone land, draw a card here. I think things start with an attack with the big demon.
And Adam isn't really even compelled to do anything else. He can just damage race if he's feeling so inclined.
Mm-hmm.
There is a risk with him activating Gristlebrand, as you mentioned, so I think he's not really going to do it until Kyle makes a move here. Kyle deploys Liliana the Veil. I think you'll see Adam dig for a counterspell if he doesn't already have it, but there's no reason for him to make a move here the way things currently are.
Looks like maybe a land's going to come into play here. Under the lowest pedal. Truthfully, I think at this point, Adam can just play this game of, draw, go. If anything threatening happens, sure, then you can activate Gristlebrand.
Exactly,
But
yeah.
I don't think he needs to actually do anything else at this point.
I like this amount of discipline from Adam. I think a lot of players would have this instinct of, I've got Gristlebrand in play, I got some light to play with, I'm going to try to finish this off. But if you're familiar with the Bug Delver list, really the only thing to get out of this spot would be resolving Liliana the Veil.
And you can do a pretty nice job of preventing that.
And
That's when you push the draw 7 button.
you can imagine a world where you draw 7 cards, none of them are that significant, and now these random Deathrite Shamans plus maybe, Kyle draws a Tarmogoyf for something, and now you're playing a game all of a sudden, so.
The preference is to not do that
Yeah.
in this situation. Brainstorm here from Kyle. He's going to draw 3. Of course, put 2 back. Cut the fetch land and play to make it a perfect one. There's the Delta. Down to 11 he goes. You don't need some help, that's for sure. Going to get a tropical island.
But not a lot of outs to Gristlebrand here. Just
No.
confirming here. Sometimes you see a weirdo Vapor Snag or Diabolic Edict or something floating around in lists like this, but
Yeah,
It's just
basically the
Liliana.
Yeah, it's the lily pad. That's how you work yourself out of this. Dark Confidant. See the Brainstorm along with the Wasteland off of this Ponder. This is a situation where, again, I think you just have to shuffle. None of these cards are going to do what you're looking for them to do.
yeah.
We're past the point of Wasteland mattering.
And mana is a serious constraint. Even the cantrips, there's a Brainstorm in this top 3. It's not clear he even has the time to spend a mana trying to redraw. You may just need to find literally the exact card you're looking for right now.
his issue is if he keeps with this, yeah, he's just basically killing himself. So he does have to shuffle, so there he goes.
You know, maybe he's thinking there, well, next turn I can draw the brainstorm, I can brainstorm, try to find, you know, he gets a card deeper, 2 cards deeper potentially. But I do not believe he has time for that kind of action.
Yeah, nor do I. Mystery card coming. It's a Deathrite Shaman. It's a good card, but it's not great right now.
No, it is outclassed.
Yeah, just a touch. Oh, here's the third one.
And that third Deathrite is definitely not good enough to force Adam to act here.
Magic can be a very complicated game at times. Most of the times it is. But when you get the opportunity to make it simple, you got to take it.
Well, and this line of play isn't simple in my mind. I think that a lot of players in this room would have done the alternate play. But Adam has enough of an understanding about what really matters in this game that he's not forcing himself to act just yet.
Going to consult the grip here, Will Jansen. He's going to activate Crystal Brand now. Okay. Wonder what he's looking for.
Well, it's possible he's close to just ending the game. Imagine he's a mana short of sneak attacking in Emrakul or something along those lines.
Well, if that's the case, by all means.
Yeah.
Here's 2 mana. This is 3. This feels like maybe a show and tell to put sneak attack into play.
Yeah. So imagine that Adam was 1 piece short of, like a mana short of doing this anyway. Then I like going for it because the odds are just so high.
As do I.
You wrap it up this turn.
And you know it's over, and that's exactly what it is. So Adam Jansen's going to win game number 1 here over Kyle Abell. Sneak and Show is up a game here over Bug Delver, as Abell did have to take him only to 5 that game. But for Jansen, it got a little rocky there.
Was without mana for a while.
Yeah, that was the scary part, right? He was without mana for a little bit, but we knew if he drew a colored mana, you kind of figured out what was up pretty quickly there.
Right.
He just wanted to be able to cast Show and Tell. There are definitely some bad draws for them in this situation. Even some of the lands would have been poor. You know, City of Traders, Ancient Tomb, and even those Simian Spirit guys we mentioned.
Yeah.
Sideboard time. We'll take a look at Kyle's sideboard of a Diabolic Edict, which is nice in this matchup. A Surgical Extraction, a Divert, Spell Pierce, Null Rod, a Corrosion Grip, a Vendilion Click, a Jace the Mind Sculptor, a Force of Will, 2 Disfigure, 2 Grafdigger's Cage, and 2 of the mighty Marsh Casualties to take care of those true name nemesis.
Well, I think the Force of Will, the Vendilion Click, the Corrosion Grip, and the Diabolic Edict are all reasonable options to go to here. Grip is a little narrow, but if he thinks that the fight is going to be about sneak attack, then I think it may be worth bringing in.
Yeah, I think the grip is, as you mentioned, narrow, but if you've watched Adam play a little bit this weekend too, we had him on earlier, he's been pretty liberal with his use of Lotus Petal and just putting it into play early.
Yeah.
And while that's not the sexiest play in the world, getting that off the table against a deck that has 19 mana sources is not so bad.
And depending on Adam's sequencing, he may not play around Corrosion Grip the best. I mean, it's one of those things where if he holds priority the whole way through, then he gets to do his thing. But if he says, try to resolve sneak attack, okay, that resolves, discard Simian Spirit Guide, then all of a sudden these things can start happening.
Well, play Fetch Land.
Right.
Or something like that.
Yeah,
Simian
exactly.
Spirit Guide's mana ability,
Right,
so you
right,
can't
right.
respond to that, but I understand what you mean.
Depending on sequencing, he might open himself up to a spot where Corrosion Grip works. On the other side, Adam with a Vandal Blast, 2 red Elemental Blast, a Flusterstorm, a Wipe Away, Echoing Truth, 2 copies of Through the Breach, a Defense Grid, and Ellisnorn, 2 Pyroclasm, 2 Blood Moon, 1 Blue Elemental Blast. So the 2 Blood Moons naturally are excellent here. Completely lock Kyle out of the game if they resolve. He's going to be playing with his board basically plus Force of Wills. I think 1 Defense Grid is awesome. I'm not a big fan of having a bunch of Defense Grids because they're not great against opponents who have both discard and counter spells and Abrupt Decay. So drawing too many Defense Grids is definitely a factor, but I think 1 is, you know, high ceiling and the floor is pretty high as well. And beyond that, I'm not sure if he's going to want to go to the extra counter spells. I don't think he's going to really want the bounce spells in this matchup. He's not worried about Kyle's permanence, more worried about the spells. But Through the Breach may give him some additional redundancy he wants here as well.
Yeah, I think I like Through the Breach in this matchup.
Yeah.
I guess I'm not excited about it, but it does seem like it just seems like a good role player to have.
Right.
Additional ways to hit him with an Emrakul or Bristlebrand and try to go off that way doesn't seem like a poor thing to have. It's not something you want in mass numbers, obviously, but oddly enough, I don't think we've seen a lot of Through the Breach action here on SCG Live.
Not really.
We see it in the sideboard of a lot of these sneak attack decks, but rarely does it actually come up.
Well, for me, the primary rule of the card is in matchups where show and tell is no good.
Okay.
You want to get out of that sometimes. There's other matchups where, whether it's because of combo matchups, whether because your opponent has something really dangerous to show and tell in themselves, whatever the case may be. And there's some matchups where you just need extra redundancy because you're fighting against a lot of counter spells, a lot of discard, or whatever the case may be.
Well, as these players do shuffle in sideboard here for game number 2, we will talk about the limited edition pre-release mat that we will have at the Star City Games Center for our Concept Arc here pre-release.
Emphasis on limited, only 600 of these will be printed. It will be given out first come, first served to people who play in the actual Star City Games pre-release in Roanoke, Virginia. Whatever leftovers there are, if there are any, will appear on the website the following day, $24.99. Again, only 600 of these being printed. We're not going back to the printers, so if you're really interested in getting this, make sure to head over to starcitygames.com/pre-release and pre-register today.
And really, if you don't want one of these, come on.
Look at this thing.
Look at that penguin with the jetpack. He's back. Actually, I didn't notice behind. Okay, so it's obviously the penguin army here. I didn't notice the jetpacks of the guys flying behind. You ever notice that?
I noticed that for the first time earlier today.
Okay. Apparently the whale has a dagger.
Yep.
So there's some real design here. I can get behind this.
They're organized and give off a military vibe, but they are still adorable.
Yeah, I wouldn't be mind getting in a fight with those guys.
Right.
I'd probably lose, but that's cool.
Right.
Will be available again after the pre-release if you're unable to make it to Roanoke, assuming that we do have some available for purchase.
Which, who knows?
No telling.
Yeah.
But it is very cool nonetheless. So get over to that, starcitygames.com/pre-release to get more information about that as we do turn back to the match here. Game number 2 about to be underway. It looks like both players laying out their opening hands. Adam Jansen did win game number 1, so Kyle Abell will be on the play here for game number 2. See if he's happy with what he's looking at. Doesn't look like it. This is a matchup, again, where Bug Delver can aggressively mulligan and still kind of compete.
A lot of the matchups are like that.
Yeah.
Plays a pretty resource-like game. That's what Delver's all about. You can have your cantrips to smooth out your draws. You need 1 mana to get stuff into play.
And that's a real appeal of the deck.
Yeah, you can mulligan, and as long as you have a mana-producing land and something to do on the first turn, you'll probably be fine.
Looks like Adam's going to keep his 7, or at least he's still thinking about it. But Kyle did mulligan pretty quickly, was not thrilled with what he saw. And Jansen is going to keep, you heard. So we'll see what Kyle can put together here. On mulligan to 6. He did have the mulligan to 5 last game, so not the best time for him to be taking mulligans, but one could argue there really is no good time.
And he did have a functional 5-card hand. I mean, that was a game that he got to play, so. Testament to Ponder and Brainstorm and all the powerful 1-mana cards. This deck is capable of doing things like that. And Kyle appears sufficiently happy with 6.
Yeah, it kept pretty quick there, so here's a polluted Delta. He's down to 19.
And really likes going for that particular Underground Sea.
Must have some sentimental value.
Or it's just really expensive and he wants to show it off.
Yeah, that one. Could be one of the two. Could be both. Here's Deathrite Shaman.
Could be both.
A foil Deathrite Shaman.
The foil Deathrite is what impresses you and not the beta Underground Sea?
We're different people. We like different things. See, that's just it just taps for blue and black mana. Who cares? Yeah. It's like an old comic book. It's just a book.
Right. Well, there's a work of art and someone's gaudy rims. And you're the one pointing out how cool the gaudy rims are.
You darn right I am. 2 copies of Force Will of Days.
Dude, they keep spinning even when the car's not moving.
That's right.
It's the coolest thing I've ever seen.
It really is cool. Here's a Ponder.
Although interesting to see in a deck, full of, displays of wealth here, that there's what appears to just be a regular Ponder being cast.
Yeah. But it is the one that you approve of, the Lorwyn Ponder.
Yes, correct.
The original Ponder.
Correct.
Time to draw. Let's see what the follow-up is here. Another Deathrite Shaman. Attacking for 1 seems appropriate. Yes, sir. Jansen down to 19. Kyle actually has some nice protection in his hand with 2 copies of Force of Will.
Again, this is another really nice mulligan. He's got stuff to do. He's been cantripping a few times. He's got protection.
He's just a little better clock.
Yeah,
That's all.
I'm sure he would love to replace one of these Deathrites with a Tarmogoyf for something along those lines.
Dark Confidant would be fantastic, of course. Just needs a little bit better beatdowns. He hasn't found a Delver of Secrets yet. Jansen got to go down via the Flooded Strand. See what land he wants to search up here. There's a basic island. Do you know what island that is?
That is an arena island.
There you go. I used to have those. Well, I used to use islands to play Magic.
Yep.
That was dumb.
Back when I was trying to, you know.
Impress people?
Exactly.
Yeah. See, I can do this too. Here's a Scalding Tarn. Feels like maybe a Brainstorm coming. Yep. It gets the thumbs up. So 3 cards coming, 2 going back. For Legacy's best card.
And by a lot.
I think it's safe to say.
I don't know what number 2 is, but there's a pretty significant gap.
Hope they reprint it in cons.
Probably not with fetch lands being reprinted. That seems like that would be an interaction that comes up in Standard. People are mad about Courser Crewfix and fetch lands. Are you kidding me?
Yeah, do you think course? Well, when there's a Courser and a fetch land, and then you brainstorm, they get to see the 3 cards.
Right, they do.
So have you considered that?
It is a cost.
Yeah. They're giving away. They're leaking information.
Well, sort of. They're just shuffling.
They're leaking it away. I know basically every card you have that in your hand that I can't beat.
Right.
So maybe I shouldn't be on the design team.
I know all 6 of the quality spells that are in your hand right now.
So I can play around them accordingly. Jansen just going to pass the turn back over to Abell, who will draw.
Adam must really like what's on top because these Bug Delver decks occasionally have Stifle. If he was going to crack that fetch land, I would imagine he would do it straight away. Both these players have been playing at a pretty methodical pace, and that's dangerous because a draw does neither player any good here.
Well, if you're wondering how they got them, it really shouldn't be much of a question anymore. They're playing a touch slowly.
I mean, if Kyle ends up winning this game, I don't think neither one of these players are playing at a pace conducive to finishing a protracted 3rd game if it comes to it.
Yes. Now, this is going to be a Vendilion Click in the draw step, it looks like. And that'll force the action.
And Kyle's hand still pretty much perfect. A Daze and Force of Will plus blue card left over. With the second force.
Yeah, second force. 2 forces in a Daze over there. See if Jansen will display his hand. He sets 2 cards aside. It feels like a Force of Will to me. I don't know about you.
Yeah.
And if Vendilion Click buys out a Force of Will and a blue card, that was a really good Vendilion Click.
Well, a lot of it's also the pressure, too. You know, right now, Adam has a lot of time to set up a hand, but the Vendilion Click changes that significantly.
Absolutely. I wonder if Adam will fight back. Nope. Said this is good enough. Jansen's already drawn a card for the turn, of course.
And the fact, I think Adam's got an incredible hand because he didn't shuffle with this land, and he forced a will to Vendilion Click. So I would not be surprised if Adam made a move to try to win the game this very turn.
Scalding Tarn going to get sacrificed down to 16.
And now, all this, what I've seen the last 2 turns, I think Adam's going to be making a move.
Not the worst time.
And if he's getting a basic mountain here, this may be a naked sneak attack. Play this with the intent of going next turn. Kyle probably can't get it off the table.
You see that a lot, too, in this matchup. And I actually think it's a really good tool because, again, the deck really only has abrupt decay as far as removal is concerned. And chances are it's actually just out of the deck.
Right.
So a naked sneak attack, and I've seen Todd Anderson do this a lot, just on the first or second turn, just play a sneak attack and just pass the turn back. And eventually I'll draw something to put into play and, either I'll annihilate your board or just put Gristlebrand in and draw a bunch of cards and I'm good to go. Yeah, there's City of Traders.
Another piece of evidence that Adam's making a move here.
Yeah. And see, the thing that makes this deck so scary to play against is that if this fails, it's not like Jansen loses the game. It's merely, okay, the game continues.
Yeah, it's not someone's ad nauseum getting countered.
Yes. Here's a Daze. Let's see if maybe he has a Simian Spirit Guide for the blowout here.
Be a good spot.
Yeah. Maybe a Force of Will here? No? Misdirection. He's going to misdirect into his Daze. I like it.
But we know that Kyle can fight over this as well.
Yeah. Now, the interesting thing is he's removing the show and tell.
So you have to remember, you have to keep in mind, one of the cards left over in Adam's hand has to be something to win the game with.
Yep.
Although I guess that's not necessarily true. If he's confident that sneak attack is just good to go if it resolves.
He doesn't have to have a threat.
Yeah.
He'll draw one eventually, or a Brainstorm or a Ponder or what have you.
Right. He's got a lot of turns to find it.
Yep. There's a Force of Will. Move a Force of Will. Jansen. Force of Will plus blue card or something here?
Yep.
That would be very surprising if those are the last 2 cards. Yeah, I'm not too surprised to see this get countered. What this means is Abel's out of cards.
Right. One card hand, we know it's Tropical Island from the Daze.
There's a Ponder. That's not a bad top deck. Get a little bit deeper. Diabolic Edict among the cards. Liliana, too. Those are pretty good cards to be looking at.
Given how light Adam is, this could be a spot where plussing Liliana can come up in this matchup. It doesn't do it very often, but...
Vendilion Click, too. Jeez. All right, that's a really good Ponder.
Yeah.
Gotta figure out how to set things up here again. Deathrite Shaman doesn't have a ton of ammo in the graveyard, though he does have a Tropical Island in his hand. So 2 mana, Deathrites, I believe, have enough to produce 3 mana a couple of times. Diabolic Edict will give you some nice protection, depending on what the threat is that Jansen puts into play. You gotta be really happy with what you just seen.
But he's pretty light here, right? There's just 2 fetch lands in the graveyard.
Yeah, I mean, the ammo, there isn't a ton of it. But it looks like he's gonna go for Liliana, and I like this. I like it a lot.
Yeah, the problem here is, he essentially has to choose between one 3-mana spell or the other, because in all likelihood, a land won't be entering the graveyard for several turns on either side. So this Vendilion Click is not going to be showing up for a while here.
Elevator goes up. It's time for Jansen to discard. I'll discard Emrakul, so gonna shuffle everything back in. So mystery cards coming. But he has no sneak attack in play. Tried to go for it last turn. Kyle won the war. Now he's got a Liliana that's ticking up, which will pressure Adam in a way that he's probably not ready to handle right now. Jansen gonna draw. Has to tread very carefully now. You saw him willingly discard Emrakul. You have to imagine that's his only large threat. Wow, is this maybe a sneak attack off the top? Okay.
All right. Well, now the fact that Kyle is very light on pressure is an issue.
Yep. That's a huge draw.
And if he wants to sit on Diabolic Edict, it means he can't really plus Liliana.
Mm-hmm. The dynamic of this game has changed.
Yeah, it's getting kind of tough to play on both sides.
The elevator goes up. The top card wasn't dealing. Click, there goes
Wow.
Gristlebrand. This is an attack for 1.
So we know the top card of Kyle's deck is Diabolic Edict. And if he gets to that, he's got a lot of protection.
He's got to fade some draws now, though. This is scary territory.
Yeah.
Let's see what the draw is. Jansen just passes the turn back. Abell going to remove an instant or sorcery. It'll be Ponder. Jansen's down to 13. An untap and a draw here for Kyle. We know that's Diabolic Edict. So now, does he want to tick Liliana up?
I don't think so.
I don't think so either.
I think sitting on Diabolic Edict here gives him a lot of protection.
There's an attack for 1.
Even given what light totals are right now, it's not clear that, you know, even if it's Gristlebrand, Adam can't really draw 7 and try to go for the kill.
Yep. Not sure of the texture of Jansen's hand. The last card that he drew, he kept, didn't cast, and just passed the turn back. He's done the same with this card. Does make you wonder what they are. Gotta be reactive spells, right? Force Will, Spell Pierce, stuff like that.
Maybe a land. Doesn't really want to put a land in play because who knows what that frees up mana-wise on Kyle's Deathray Shamans.
Yeah, he'd have to lose the City of Traders. Up to 6. Discard Dark Confidant. Discard Show and Tell. Okay,
Sure.
that's a card he could draw. That's not good. There's an attack for 1. Jansen's down to 9, I believe. See what Jansen draws for the turn now. I think this is Spell Pierce is one of the cards in his hand now. Single blue mana means it's time to ponder or brainstorm. It's time to brainstorm. A very risky brainstorm here.
But I don't know how much more he can really wait.
Yeah, me too. I mean, he has the potential to get himself just locked out of the game.
It's also hard to put, you know, Kyle on having something as specific as Diabolic Edict in this spot.
Yeah, a lot of these decks don't have that card. Though it does make you wonder, that turn where Kyle didn't take up the Liliana, well, if you're Adam, you're probably thinking, okay, well, what could that card be?
I can imagine it's something like Force of Will, where Kyle wants to give himself the opportunity to maybe draw a blue card or draw enough mana to cast it. If I was in Adam's position, that would probably be my assumption.
Okay.
Or maybe, I guess, Spell Pierce that is no longer really an option here. Given
Yeah,
that it's-
I can see the argument for Forcible. It's a low impact card at this point because Adam doesn't really need to cast any spells since he has Sneak Attack in play. But, you know, Forcible can counter a card like Brainstorm or Ponder to prevent him from drawing into a large threat. So I can see both sides of it.
Right.
I don't think that he's going to, you know, deduce that it's Diabolic Edict. I would be very surprised if he did that.
Yeah,
It's not
same.
a Legacy staple.
And this is shaping up to be a game that Kyle looks likely to win. And given the issues with the clock here,
Got to take the elevator up to 7. Jansen's going to discard a Spell Pierce. There goes a Wasteland for Kyle. He's in for 1 yet again. Jansen's down to 6. Jansen's going to untap and draw. It's going to have to be a pretty good one. We know that. Looks like he's going to play a land now. Yep, Scalding Tarn. That means the City of Traders will trigger, and that's going to die. And Kyle's going to remove something. There goes the Spell Pierce, Brainstorm, whatever it is. Down 2 more, down to 4. Kyle draws himself a black source of mana, which he just did. He can remove 1 and 2. And we are done here. Kyle Abell's going to win game number 2 over Adam Jansen, and we're headed to a third and final one between these two players. But as you mentioned, the most important thing here is tick-tock goes the clock.
I mean, even if we start playing this game with, let's say, 10 minutes left, and that would require relatively quick sideboarding from these players, the clock's going to be an enormous issue.
Well, we're going to find out if they can finish in time here, because as you mentioned, another draw is that's about the worst thing that can happen. You say it's actually worse than a loss.
Well, unless you're Joe Bernal. I mean, he's a player.
That's true.
If he won this round.
That's true.
It's really the one out that he has here are these players drawing each other out, assuming that he wins his round.
We'll see how things do break here. So they do shuffle up here for game number 3. We will talk about Star City Games game night. It is September, which means it is finally here. Started last Wednesday. Swirls, tokens, and pins, and all that jazz.
Program has gone live this month. You see on the bottom left-hand corner there, pins and tokens. Each month will bring new pins and new tokens. Every Wednesday night, the game night will occur. Stores, feel free to set up the tournaments and the formats however you'd like. Just get players in your store. StarCityGames.com/game night for more information. If you're interested in getting on board for October, sign up soon because it takes us time to get these kids out to people. If you live outside of the United States, don't worry. The program is worldwide. We will send it wherever. So do not let your location prohibit you from joining this program if you're so inclined. StarCityGames.com/game night for more information.
September's finally here, which means game night's here and football's here.
Yeah.
Your New York Football Giants, you got a big win coming tomorrow.
Oh, yeah. This is going to be, you know, will it be looking like Eli's back? And we're going to be potentially playoff bound in the NFC.
You can't even say it with a straight face.
Or am I going to have to watch another year of him lollipopping balls into the chest of defensive backs? We'll find out starting tomorrow evening.
We sure will. You get the absolute pleasure of going to the Motor City to play against the Lions and Calvin Johnson.
I'll be on the plane, I think, when the game's going, so hopefully they'll have TVs on the flight. Or actually, probably not.
I think you'd rather dodge the game.
Yeah.
I don't know if you want to watch
Unless
that.
they put me on the first row of the plane, I'm going to be punching the seat, most likely. So it's pretty bad news if someone's in front of me.
You could have chosen to be a Jets fan, right? Or are they like your sworn enemies? How's that work in like New York, your area?
There's very rarely are fans of one team really despise the other. There's bigger battles to fight. If you're a Jets fan, you know the Patriots are in front, and if you're a Giants fan, then the Eagles or Washington or Dallas or all of them, and the Patriots are all more hated.
Sure. Okay. It's just can't win.
No, I'm a Jets well-wisher, but I'm not a fan.
Well, that's so nice of you.
Yeah.
Scalding turned into an island here for Jansen. Looks like he's starting to move a little bit faster.
Yep. Well, I mean, look at the clock.
Yeah.
Time to go.
It's a ponder. Again, neither of these players can afford a draw.
Yeah.
The person who was hoping for a draw here, as you mentioned, is Joe Bernal. It's going to be a shuffle with the ponder.
Assuming he won.
Yes.
I mean, we got to, see what's going on the sidelines over there.
Well, of course, that's step one, is he does need to win. And it looks like he's currently up a game. No, the clock is...
Up a game?
Yeah. Well, he has played miracles.
Sure. Both Adam and Joe drew themselves out. That would be a pretty...
That would be something, wouldn't it?
Hilarious end to the Swiss rounds.
There's a Death Right Shaman. Cal actually has a copy of Abrupting in his hand. A little surprised by that. Might be trying to hedge against a card like Blood Moon.
We know Adam does have 2 in the sideboard.
It's lights out against a Delver, Blood Delver deck. Most Delver decks, to be fair. Volcanic Island into a Brainstorm. So 1, 2, and 3. So I'm using the non-basic instead of the basic because of Wasteland.
Active player finish your turn will proceed to 5 additional turns.
Potentially Spell Pierce in hand.
For judge. Would players Greg Mueller and Richard Timmon please report to the scorekeeper? Once again, Greg Mueller and Richard Tennant, please report to the score.
You know, Adrian Sullivan brings this up a lot, that he'd rather play, 90% good enough and be able to finish the round in time when he's playing blue-white control, rather than strive for 100% efficiency and draw out a good percentage of the time.
A lot of the time it draws as good as a loss.
This is one of those spots where it's the same thing.
Yeah. Kyle gonna play an underground C. Just gonna pass the turn back here. Looks like Blood Moon's on his mind. Even Billion Click is on his mind. Remove that. Cast this. Will it resolve? Jansen does have the Blood Moon in his hand, actually. It's going to be a Spell Pierce, a Ponder, the Blood Moon, Lotus Petal, Sneak Attack, Sneak Attack. Pretty good hand.
Yep. Though this is one of those spots where, given the makeup of Adam's hand, he does not have to kill. And now Kyle with sufficient pressure, it's not even clear that Blood Moon is public enemy number 1 if you're in Kyle's seat. I think it's still likely to be the card that gets selected here because there's no other hole you can really poke in this hand. It's a backup Sneak Attack. There's a backup Cantrip.
Mystery card coming. Jansen going to cast a Ponder now. It's time to look at a couple of them. See, we're under 2 minutes here. For Kyle, it's going to be very hard for him to win the game now. I mean, he does have a Billion Click in play, and Deathbite Shaman can remove instant and sorcery, so the potential to deal 5 a turn, but...
Yeah, 5 a turn. I mean, it's still possible. The turns are untimed if they get there, so... I guess when they get there is probably operative.
Ancient Tomb is big. That's wastelandable, though. I guess he has a Lotus Petal, too, so he can just try to rock and roll his weight in a Sneak Attack right now. Let's see what this is. Another Ponder? Yeah, there's a Ponder. Probably for Adam, just taking way too much time with his decisions.
Yeah.
He does have the ability to win the extra turns all in one shot, but things have to line up appropriately for him to do that. I don't feel like he's giving himself the best chance to win in that method. Like, the decision to cast a Ponder, he has to be rapid with his decisions right now.
Yeah.
There's a Petal. He passed the turn back.
Once again, Legacy Open players,
Kyle will draw a card. So he's got a Daze over there. He's going to slide the Wasteland forward.
Yeah, I mean, at this point, he can go after mana pretty aggressively. He can even Abrupticate the Petal if he wants to.
Yeah.
Wasteland the Tomb or the Volcanic.
Yeah, I like this a lot.
Yeah. A man who furrows his brow and juts out his lower lip, he's probably disenchanting a Lotus Petal.
Yeah. Brainstorm. With the Petal mana. So here's 3 cards. 2, of course, will have to go back.
And this is now turn 0.
Yep.
So I think that Kyle is essentially locked out of winning this game.
Yep. What do you want Wasteland here?
With the Daze in hand, I would err towards the Tomb.
Thinking the exact same thing. I think there's a real want to go after that red mana to kind of color screw him a little bit.
Yeah.
Especially when you saw 2 Sneak Attacks in hand. Yeah, he's going to do that. This can be risky.
Yeah. I'm not confident. I'm not, it depends a lot on specifically what's in Kyle's hand.
Yep. There's a
I'm
Delver.
saying my instinct is generally, if it looks close and you have a Daze in hand, you want to be going after Tombs rather than Volcanics.
What does kind of make this a little bit compelling, however, is the race gets very interesting now, right? Because the Tomb deals damage, Delver can flip, and then there's Deathrite. It's conceivable.
Yeah, if that's Kyle's line, then that's pretty brilliant. If he feels like the only way I can win in time involves Adam tapping this Ancient Tomb at least once, then good on him.
There's a Flooded Strand. That's a point. Whatever.
They all add up.
They
yeah.
all add up now. 2, 3. Jansen's down to 14. This must be show and tell. He's going to sacrifice the fetch land now. There's a red source.
Yeah, if Kyle's logic here is draw as good as a loss, need him to tap Ancient Tomb to try to win. Fortunately, now we're here where show and tell is potentially resolving.
Yep.
And
Gotta make him pay 1. So there's that. I like that play, of course, because if he lets show and tell resolve, he puts sneak attack into play.
yeah,
And then can activate. So that play is very, very good. And Kyle's at the ready with the card to put into play. So I wonder what Adam's going to put into play now. And you can tell he's actually unsure of himself. Very unsure of himself.
yeah.
Let's see what this is. Goyf, sneak attack. How big is Goyf? That's
I
what
think
we
it needs to
find
be
out.
5 power for it to be conceivable for Kyle to win this turn.
It's turn 2. Kyle will draw.
And probably, there was no creature in the graveyard, I would assume, so.
Be surprised if there is.
Sorcery, land, instant artifact would be my guess.
4, 5. 4, 5, 6, 7. Delver did not flip, so 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Deathrite is 9 and 10 with the activation. So he's a little short right now.
Here's the thing is, if he attacks with everything here,
Okay.
that's 4, 7, 8, 9 points of damage. That knocks him down to 4. Let's say post-combat he casts Dark Confidant.
Okay.
Emrakul is no longer good.
Yep.
He can sacrifice everything but Tarmogoyf, survive the Annihilator trigger, and if Adam doesn't have anything else going on,
He's going to play Liliana.
so in this world, if he gets hit with an Annihilator trigger, he's dealing 8 damage this turn, knocking him down to 5. And then Liliana enters the graveyard, which is a 5th card type.
We got a creature in the graveyard now.
Yeah, so this works. I mean, he can survive an Emrakul.
So there's a creature in the bin, so that's going to be an attack for... Yep, so it's attack for 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. As you mentioned, if it's Emrakul, Emrakul's no good.
Yeah, he needs extra help. I think he does have an Emrakul in hand, but that's not going to do it here.
And Gristlebrand's not great right now either, because it's not like Gristlebrand can come into play and then, draw 7 cards and try to 1-2 punch. That's not an option. He needs 4.
Well, I mean, Adam needs a second red source of mana and 2 things to sneak attack into play on his 3 cards. This is pretty impressive stuff from Kyle. I thought, he would not be able to cobble together lethal, but leaving that Ancient Tomb in play, being aggressive casting this Tarmogoyf, he might do it here. Adam can still conceivably win this by getting both of his creatures into play,
Well, here's Brainstorm.
but it's asking a lot.
2, 3. Force of will among the cards. 2 cards have to go back. Did he find it all? Another red source, Gristlebrand, and Emrakul is what he needs to win the game right now. Step 1.
That is step 1. Does he have the perfect 2 left over?
Sneak attack. Step 2. An attack means he doesn't have Gristlebrand, Annihilator trigger. Means that Kyle's going to have to sacrifice a whole bunch of stuff. But unsurprisingly, he's going to sacrifice everything but Tarmogoyf.
This is a really impressive game from Kyle. No 2 ways about it.
He goes down to 5.
I mean, Adam has, Echoing Truth in his sideboard. If he has it here, he can bounce the glyph again. But by the looks of things,
I mean, what's actually kind of crazy about this is because there's a realistic possibility for Adam not to be dead, which is when Kyle untaps and draws and attacks, Adam says, all right, my other card in my hand was an Emrakul. I use that to block with sneak attack. And then he gets to go to the next turn. And I think that's what's going to happen.
Well, assuming that it is.
Yeah, it's a force and that's going to do it. Kyle Abell's going to win this match over Adam Jansen 2-1. And with that win on the 4th and last turn of the game for him, he's headed to our elimination rounds this evening.
Leaving that Ancient Tomb in play off that Wasteland there. I mean, that Adam's at 4.